Good morning. My name is Kozik. I'm here to talk about my two paintings a little bit. And I want to introduce myself to you. I'm an artist from Sharon, Connecticut. We've been there 14 years after 20 years in Brooklyn, where I lived when I was starting my career as an artist. My interest in art emerged as a child and I stayed with it, although I originally went to architecture school. And I think you can see through my interest in structure and my discussion of space that those concerns have stayed with me. And I think that has to do, I think my ability to draw in space and create things and rotate them in space has a lot to do with my understanding of design and my practice of dealing with the third dimension. I primarily work in oil paintings, and these are my two paintings. The first one here is called Metaphysical. It, like the other, is from a long series of books, paintings, and drawings that started many years ago in a very different form. The first form was a painting of a scene. It was a scene of a red library with a figure in it. A scene, by a scene I mean, it looked like a room, and it looked like a library, and there was a sleeping figure in it. And I did several versions of this because I kept selling them happily. And then there came a time when I had an idea about a different way of doing it. And that came from several thoughts. One was I'd become very drawn to frontal compositions, ones that were flat and had a very limited space. I had been inspired by seeing a show of William Hartnett, who is a 19th century American painter who did sort of shallow space trompe-l'oeil paintings with a lot of ephemera that sort of marked a time. And by ephemera, I mean letters and tickets and dollar bills, but also rifles and dead game and different things. But I was really drawn to these. So between these two impulses to make frontal compositions that are flat and central and don't have a lot of receding space, and the interest in ephemera, I started this series. My interest in ephemera, my interest in Hartnett's paintings came from the fact that I recognized that it looked a lot like my studio walls. I think my studio walls, like many artists' walls, have stuff taped or tacked all over them, sort of visual thoughts that you want to come back to, things that interest you, but you might not be quite ready to use in a painting. Anyway, that's what my studio is like. So that's kind of what we have here. We have a frontal composition with the bookshelves and the books, and we have an image of someone else's painting. This is a Giorgio de Chirico painting, one that's in MoMA. It's actually not the painting, it's my copy of the painting. And it was something that was on my studio wall that I always liked. And what I liked about it was that, first of all, I liked what it looked like. It was kind of flat, and I kind of like flat, and it was recognizable but unrecognizable at the same time. And it had another painting inside it. So when you paint a painting of someone else's painting that already has a painting inside it, it brings up some interesting questions, and that's why I called it metaphysical. Let me say one more thing about the books themselves. Books, in a way, work the same way as having an image on your wall in your studio, a torn out, tacked up image of something. In that, to me, they are repositories of information, that each one is an idea or a story or a reference. And I love that idea. I'm a big reader, and I'm also drawn to books because they're a very concrete shape. In my imagination, I can rotate them around, I can draw them, I can turn them upside down, I can open them, I can do all sorts of things with them because I'm so familiar with them without ever looking at an actual book. So they have a geometric shape, but because I'm not that tidy, mine are often messy, and I like that too, the tension between order and chaos. So Metaphysical has the de Chirico painting. It has these sort of messy books on the shelves. It has the trompe-l'oeil effect, the illusionary effect that makes these things seem like they're coming into your space instead of receding in space like many of my older paintings did. This is my second painting. This painting is called Czech. It's spelled C-Z-E-C-H, but it's actually a pun on the word Czech, which is in itself a pun on two kinds of Czechs. It's the Czech of like checked fabrics, and it's the Czech as in checkmate, as in a game of chess. So with this one differs from the first one in that the books are not on shelves. I had seen an image of a secondhand bookstore that was so full of books that a window was filled up with them. And when you saw them from the exterior, you didn't see the spines of the books, you saw the pages and the edges of the bindings. And I liked that variation. And I also liked just the mess of it. And in addition, I liked the painting of it because I literally started at the bottom and built this pile of books in my imagination just by painting. And it was so free because it didn't matter where they went. And the more free it was, the more it was going to remind me of that scene at the secondhand bookshop with the yellowed pages of the old books turning even more yellow in the window. So books, window, and I decided that I was going to add some additional elements. As I'd done in a number of the other books paintings, they weren't just copies of paintings in them or pinned up pieces of paper. One had a flower, one had a dried flower. And this one has a yo-yo and chess pieces. So with the books on shelves, they're very regular. There's horizontals and there's verticals, and they're very much like a grid, which if you're a student of art history at all, particularly abstract painting, you know grids are talked about and painted about a lot. But as much as grids are talked about and painted about, broken grids are also talked about and painted about. So to me, this is a broken grid. It still has a lot of horizontals and verticals, but it has a lot of diagonals and chaos and movement through it. And it's a very different sort of structure. There's still this part of the grid, but this is very chaotic. And one grid is a chessboard. And I think through the colors, I was thinking, black and white or tan and white was very much like a chessboard, excuse me. And with the chess pieces, it just came to me that I should call it Czech, like checkmate. But maybe there was a reason I changed it to Czech, like from the country, but I don't remember what it was. So this is the story of two of my books paintings. If you want to see more, there's plenty online, and thank you.